Guys, we just left off in the last video talking about the multitude of trails here at Durhamtown and how there's something for everybody, unlike any other facility, and how it caters to the family experience so everybody can have fun. Where do we leave off, Mike?
Well, just all the different diversities of opportunity here, and there's mud parks all over South Georgia, and they're all over the lower southeast United States. But again, there's not a facility that can provide you with every facet of riding. An example, dirt bikers, you got your single track riders. We got about 75 miles of single track, dirt bike only, one-way trails. And they're scattered throughout all areas of the property, so you get different terrains. We've got lowland riding in the hardwoods, along the banks of the river, along the creek draws, up into the pines, and just all over, just total diversity in trail riding. And then with the motocross riding, is the tracks, each track has its own uniqueness. And so that's totally diversified, from the Pee Wee track all the way up to a pro motocross track. ATV riding, you got your adrenaline, wide open trails with jumps, water bars that are designed to entertain as you travel through the trails, as also provide entertainment from jumping as well as keeping the water off the trail. So ATVs, from mudding to high-speed riding to drag racing, and now the side-by-sides, like I say, 300-400 horsepower machines now, those guys got to have somewhere to go. And you don't want to mix them, so you try to provide them with a place that they'll stay and I call it racing against yourself. You go out and you time yourself on a lap, and everybody wants to beat their last lap. And that's some of the best racing there is two guys out there trying to beat each other's time.
You have a new record that just got set 2 days ago.
Yeah, we see that quite often. One of the on that turbo track, and also that GP track, we actually twice a year we'll go out there and we tone them down, the jumps down a little bit, and the Raptor trucks, the Ford Raptor trucks, and the high performance trucks. There's not a place on the East Coast you can ride those things either. And they come in twice a year. They go out there and ride and race. And they race against their time. That's what they do. We don't let them race side by side and so forth. But yeah, this past fall, we had a brand new $130,000 truck come out and do 3 laps. Next thing I know, he's rolled it up on his side. And the guy was just as happy as he could be.
Catching air and doing air, jumping.
But he was going around a curve, and, trying to drift it into a curve, and got caught up and just having too much fun. He said, I just got overly excited, and overreacted. But again, all these things, I look at it this way: that track or trail is going to only handle so many hours or miles of travel before it's going to require more maintenance. Well, so I take that and I think, well, if I can create more entertainment of people watching, that's less hours on that trail. So from a business standpoint, you create these places. You create this mud hole for a person to get in there and get stuck, and everybody wants to watch somebody get stuck. So there's 50 people standing around watching. Well, that's 50 people not running down the trail.
I've seen picnic tables and seats at those places. Yeah. Bleachers. Yeah. It's a spectator sport too.
That's right. Got a swimming hole down there with a rope swing on it. So a lot of people go down there and hang out and swim, because after riding in this dust in the summertime, nothing better than jumping in the river and getting all the dust off of you. And and a lot of these people have never had that opportunity to do that. Either the city people come in and, they've never swam in a river.
In a rope swing?
Rope swings and things like
river,
that.
It's beautiful.
One of the things that's unique about Durhamtown too is, with all these activities going on, the wildlife is still here. The deer, the wild turkey, the wild hogs, And of course, every small game imaginable is out here, but people just find it amazing to be riding because there's a lot of trails you can get out. And you'll be the only one out there cruising along that trail, and you'll come up on a flock of wild turkeys, or you'll come into a pack of wild hogs. People have this fear of wild hogs that they're going to attack them and kill them, but hogs, everything in wildlife's going to go in the opposite direction unless it feels trapped. And there's no reason for anything to feel trapped here because there's so much space. So you can just sit back and smoke your cigarette or sit there with your wife and watch the wildlife do its thing out there. And it's just being with nature. I mean, the whole deal about coming out to Durhamtown is just come out here and be with nature. One of the good things is I had mentioned is we have about 65, 70 cabins. And some are RVs, some are small cabins, some are 3-bedroom houses that we rent out, and that goes back to the need. When you provide all this, people want to come here, and it takes more than one day to experience it. Or if you're traveling from long distance, you need somewhere to stay. So we started building cabins and renting RVs and so forth, and then we provide people. We got people basically, I'm going to say, all over the world that rent a RV site here permanently. And I say permanently means they do a year contract. They'll buy an RV and park it on the site and leave it hooked up. They'll get a small shipping container and store their ride, their equipment and stuff in it. So when they come, it's like going to the lake house is my way I explain it is, all your toys are here at all times. So you just get in your car, drive down here, get out of your car, put your gear on, crank your machine up and go ride. That's become extremely popular. We've got about 150 RV sites where you can pull in for the weekend and park your camper. No matter what length you are, we can handle anything up to 75 feet, truck and trailers.
We're 80 feet and we fit.
You're 80 feet?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And no problem.
Right.
I drove a tractor trailer in here, semi hauling a 45-foot toy hauler, and I didn't even have to back in. It's a pull-in site.
That's your biggest fear. When
Yeah.
you go somewhere, where you gonna park that rig?
No trees scratching it. Just
Right.
You guys figured it out.
Yeah, and so the demand for that has gotten so big that we're actually now taking another 350-acre tract. And we're built 3 ponds on it. And did y'all guys go down there?
My goodness,
Did you
I
go
was
there?
blown away, Mike. I was like, it looks like a state park resort with 3 ponds and a hill. I picked out my spot. I want to rent that. I got the first year there. Okay.
So we're going to. We're hoping to have that open by around June, July.
Beautiful.
That particular track has 3/4 of a mile along the river as well, and but
It's an RV resort, is
it's
what
going
it
to be
is.
an RV resort destination. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Where you can actually ride right from there to.
ride right onto the trail.
17
See, that's
tracks.
unique here, whether it's your cabin or whether it's your RV or whatever. Once you drive here and park, you don't ever get back in your vehicle. Everything is done from your ATV or dirt bike or side by side or
Yeah.
whatever. You can walk to most of it, or you can ride up to the restaurant, up to the lodge. Here with the lodge, on holiday weekends and stuff, we have live bands. We have a full bar we operate. We do them outside, we do them inside, depending on the weather. And everybody in the park can walk up to the live band and hang out, drive your ATV or side by side up to the band and park in front of it and listen to the music, bring your own coolers up. And of course, we run a full service bar as well when we do that. We try to make it, one of the things I like about that is you get to take your family, your kids. Nowadays, the younger kids never see a live band anymore. They don't know that experience of going.
Especially since COVID. I mean, some
we
kids have
grew
never
up,
seen it.
We would go with our parents some, and there was always live bands going on in the community, and we'd go watch them. Well, nowadays, that's not as common, but to be able to come out here and sit and watch a band and, play cornhole and hang out with all the kids in the campground, I mean, it's just amazing to watch all that happen. And it's the whole family environment. It's just wholesome fun. Clean fun is what we try to be. We try to keep one of the things that one of our valued rules that we have is we don't allow drinking on the trails. We don't. You can, if we see that you are drinking or been drinking within 2 hours, we will not sell you an armband. You're not allowed to be on our trails. Now, when you come in off the trails, you want to go sit and have a beer, no problem with that. At night, around the campfire with your friends and family, have your beer. You get out of control, you become a problem, you'll be evicted off the property. We're not going to tolerate that type of activity here. You know, there's places for that, and that's fine. But when you're operating a family facility where you want your kids and your daughters to be safe, we hold to those measurements. That's what
Amen.
we pride ourselves in. And the safety of the trails the same way. We try to keep a EMT on site on the weekends. So when there's one of the things I think we're the best at. You might have seen this when you ride throughout the property. There are call boxes, emergency call boxes. We have two-way radio system with a repeater here. So pretty much anywhere on this property, if you get hurt, run out of gas, or have any issues, or you feel lost, there's 18 of those call stations scattered over the property. You got 6,000 acres, about 150 miles of total trails in here. At any point in time, you're no more than 5 minutes away from help at the max. We figure our average response time, because on the weekend when we're really busy, we have usually 5 to 8 patrol guys out on the trails and at any busy spots, some of the tracks with a safety person there. So if there's an injury, our response time is usually within 7 minutes. We can be on top of you with medical. We have a recovery vehicle with gurneys and all the safety equipment on it where we can tend to you right on the spot of the injury. And we're within less than 5 minutes of getting you back to a major road to the ambulance. We have a staging area for ambulance. So if you're going to do this sport, you're going to get hurt. Cut and dry. You're not riding hard enough if you don't.
It's true.
At some point you're going to get hurt. It's just part of the sport. So we focus on how can we reduce that risk, first of all. Secondly, if it does happen, what's the most efficient way to get you the professional help that you need? And our first level is typically as a EMT or paramedic that we have on staff that is there first doing the on-site attendance. And then we travel you back to a pickup station with the ambulance to be waiting on you. By the time we get you out of the woods, normally there's an ambulance sitting here waiting for us. And we helicopter service if it comes to that severity of it. You know, we got a landing zone on site. They'll come in, pick you up, take you out, depends. So I'm a victim of hurt, go ahead.
All my life, since I was just 5 years old, I've been going to motocross tracks and facilities all up and down the East Coast. And I would say this is probably the safest facility. The guys who designed it, you had Mark Barnett design one of the tracks. You had the pros that designed these tracks, and the guys that you have tracks for every level, from beginners it's just basically a flat circle track to a pee-wee track that's like the best pee-wee track I've ever seen. Yeah. But the jumps are set up to not hurt you. You can do the big jump, but if you come up short, there's not a penalty. And it seems like a lot of tracks are designed to hurt people. I see the way they build them. I'm like, why did you do this? People and so the likelihood of getting hurt here is less than any facility I've ever been at. There's no rocks on the tracks. There's no boulders sticking out of the tracks. There's no debris. There's no trash. It's just the facility's spotless, and you've got 35 guys out there maintaining it. I saw bulldozers and bobcats, and spent the whole day with Eric. I saw 3 pieces of trash on 30,000 acres. He saw 6. He picked up the other 3. I mean, the staff really takes. I didn't see a single cigarette buck on the entire facility. It's just people respect this place, because you guys respect it.
Well, you got to show respect. And I learned this in the landscape business. Your first sight is the biggest impression. If you drive up and you see trash, and you enter the trail systems and you see beer cans or Coke cans or whatever, you don't have a problem throwing your trash out because everybody else is doing it. But we part of our staff, our team on Mondays, that's what they do, is they go through this whole park and they pick up every piece of trash out here. They go out as a team and they split up. And anytime they're traveling to work on a trail or do anything, and that's a requirement, if you see trash, you stop and get it. And it's a never-ending thing here.
I see it on Mount Ice, it's true.
They said we fill up 5 dumpsters every week.
Wow.
Big dumpsters that come in big trucks and dump it. But you know, the good thing, I don't know if you realize this as you go in off the main entrance, within the first mile of trail, there's a long straightaway, and it's just multi-jump after jump after jump after jump. Where that was designed. Everything has a purpose. The purpose of that was to shake all the trash and loose items out of your machine before you get into my woods. So 80% of my trash is within the first mile. And it works so good. And the good thing is, if you do sneak beer in there, that beer's not worth drinking. I promise you, it ain't nothing but a fizz.
That's why that's there, okay.
So, like I said, everything has a purpose out here. I thought it out. I lay in bed every night and I'm thinking, how can I improve? Or how can I overcome? If I got a problem, how can I approach this? And what can I do to eliminate it or to make it a safer scenario or, you know, just make it a better facility? And that's just who I am. I analyze everything. I go to Six Flags or Disney World somewhere, and the most important thing, one of them is I've met people from all over the world in every aspect of the world. Well, I'm an inquisitive person, but I'll ask you, what do you do for a living? And I'll ask you, how do you overcome this obstacle? How do you overcome that? And I never forget, back in the early 2000s, the vice president of Disney World used to come up here every year. And this was their most desired vacation spot. And the reason it was, he says, you know, I live in a 4-star, 5-star environment. At Disney World with his level of it. He said, when we travel, that's normally what we travel, 4- and 5-star resorts. He says, but I was raised in Kansas on a farm, and my kids have never experienced that until I found Durhamtown. He said, I bring my kids up here. They don't have TV. They don't have cell service. The games, I don't allow them to bring their games. And we sit out, we build a campfire, we cook s'mores, things that they'll never get to do anywhere else. He said, but when I come to Durhamtown, this is going back to my roots. It gives me a chance to bring my kids up the way I did. And I've met so many people in the resort business and learned secrets of the trade, of how they deal with things. And we share ideas. You know, that's what I like. I like to learn about people, learn what they do and how they did it. And maybe I'll learn something out of that conversation. Everybody's got something to share. No matter who you are, where you are. We've all got experiences, whether good or bad. We all have had bad experiences. We've all had good ones. And we learn by sharing the knowledge of all that. And I grew up just as a chicken farmer, you know, shooting squirrels and rabbits and quail for a living. You know, I could sell a rabbit for 50 cents, and I could buy a box of BBs for that back in the day. And that was a week or 2 weeks of BBs for me. And it's just a great way of being raised, in my opinion. And I took it for granted that everybody has that opportunity, but now I realize they don't. And I don't know, this thing has just been, it's had its ups and downs. It's in any business. I crashed here. I have a broke neck. My number 2 in 8 pieces from a side to side, flipping upside down. You know, supposed to be dead. I've been through 2 kidney transplants. I've been dead 3 times, brought back. My son, he crashed out here. He's 34 years old. He crashed when he was, I think, 19. 18 or 19, and got a massive brain injury. But I mean, he was in here walking around a while ago. but he'll never be able to run the business. My dad died as a result of riding a street bike out here on these roads with no helmet. Deer ran across the front of him. He went out through the woods, tore him up, and he died of depression basically because of couldn't work any longer. And so I've been around the good side and the bad side of it. And I've seen so many families, you know, people get hurt out here because it is part of the sport, but I feel like I've saved a lot of lives because if you're going to ride in the safest location possible. Secondly, we can provide medical help instantly. And I've heard so many stories of people riding in Forest Service land and renegade riding is what I call it. People get hurt, they can't get help quick enough, and they've lost their friends or loved ones or whatever, for whatever reason. So being able to get to somebody when they do get hurt.
In preventing the injury, you're the number one brick and mortar store for a bunch of different brands over the years of protective gear. So you have the best, the pro shop. You have the best boots, goggles, helmets, chest protectors. So mom can make sure, and dad can make sure the kids and that they themselves are all protected. And if something happens out there, they're going to get 7 minutes. You know, they get to the call box, 7 minutes. Someone will be there helping.
Yep.
And keeping the track safe. So the way you built the track, so the kids won't get hurt, and you don't have. What drives me, my biggest pet peeve about tracks is it drives me crazy when there's one track and they put the pee-wee kids out there on 65s and 85s with pro riders. I've seen kids getting landed on. I'm like, it just looks wrong, you know, and you don't allow adults to ride on your pee-wee tracks, 13 and under. Once you're 14, you go ride the big kids track.
Exactly.
And then you've got the beginners track, which is for beginners only. And you have every level of track here. So you're not mixing, you know, it's like you wouldn't put a 80-pound 8-year-old in the ring with a 200-pound pro UFC fighter, because this is like UFC. You're going to get hit now and then.
Exactly.
You don't. You put him in with another 80-pound kid.
To me, it's common sense. But why other people don't do it, I guess, because it's cheaper or they don't have the resources. And you know, most tracks are nothing but a track, but one track. And everybody feels like they're entitled to go ride because they paid the same money. I mean, I see it out here, everybody feels like they're entitled, but at the same time, these are our rules. We're gonna separate you. I'm not gonna put a guy on a little 50 ATV or dirt bike out there on the GP track with a guy with a 300 horsepower razor ripping around it. Now, I'm gonna give you your opportunity, but I'm gonna have a guy at the gate that's gonna say, okay, you guys got 10 minutes out here. Y'all come off. Now, these guys got 10 minutes out here. Everybody has an opportunity of everything on the property, but we're not going to blend it. I mean, that's just, to me, I don't know, common sense has got to play a lot into it.
And with 16 tracks, you literally have something for everybody.
Yeah.
All the experience levels for the side-by-sides, the quads, the mini bikes, the full-size bikes. I've seen 3 generations together riding with Grandma yesterday out there. She had to be 80 years old on a quad, and everybody's having a blast. I got it on film. I was like, this is what it's all about. So this place, the American dream, is still alive and well here in Durhamtown.
Yeah. You know, the good thing about the side-by-side, it does allow the disabled, and when I say disabled, I mean, you know, whether you got a bad back or whatever, but you can get in a side-by-side, whether it's a Ranger style unit or whether it's a sport side-by-side, you know, anybody can go ride, can get out and then enjoy the woods. And that's why it's been a favorite of corporate retreats, is because no matter what one guy was telling me, he said, we go, you know, golfing every year, but not everybody plays golf. He said, so what do I have to do? So I have to take the ladies and put them over here in the spa for the guys to go out there and play golf and get drunk and have fun. He said, but if I come here, my whole team can go in unity. Anybody can either drive or ride as a passenger and get the same experience.
And you can rent them everything they need, from the helmets to the bikes to the
Everything.
side-by-sides. You have 4-place side-by-sides, and they don't even need a camper. They can. You have how many cottages do you have here?
About 65.
So you could have a American Honda come here with 150 employees and
Oh,
and
yeah.
take care of everybody.
We've done up to 300, groups out here in corporate events, and we do a lot of manufacturers come out and do testing and development. Like we're doing next week, we're doing a development, new products being released by a particular brand, and so they're bringing in all their dealers to come out and stay. There's a Ritz-Carlton right here at Lake Oconee, 30 minutes away. So if you want to house them over there in 30 minutes, you over here, you get the best of both worlds. You got 6,000 acres of off-road trails. 30 minutes away is the Ritz-Carlton experience, and we've hosted all of that many times, and plus there's boating over there. I mean, from a corporate or group or weddings or any form of a recreation entertainment thing, this region right here, because of Durhamtown, many people do come to this region to get that type of activity. There's one guy told me, he says, we try to go somewhere unique every year, and by far Durhamtown is always brought up as the number one best time they've had, because here you control your destination. When you're in that, whether you're on a dirt bike or whether you're on an ATV or in a side-by-side, you control your adrenaline. And what most of us are seeking is a shot of adrenaline. And adrenaline is an addictive natural drug. When you got, whether it's stress or whether it's problems in the family or with your work or whatever, you go out there and get on a dirt bike, or you go out there and get on a side-by-side, and you're pushing yourself to the edge and you're taking shots of adrenaline. What that's doing is cleansing your system.
Amen.
And when you get to the end of the day, your body feels cleansed. And then you have I call it the adrenaline hangover, which means I need to go do it again. You want to go back out there and do it. It gets addictive. So,
You mentioned depression earlier, that your dad had. And there was a point in my life about 15 years ago, so I was in some real dark times, and I said to myself, "What is the one thing that makes me happy?" And I didn't have a motocross bike, so money was real tight. I went out and financed a Yamaha YZ14. I said, "I'm going to ride this bike I forced myself for 30 days, and I went from a dark spot where I wasn't very happy to kicking off one of the best parts of my life." And that's one thing the dirt bike does for us dirt bikers is, and for the people who aren't even into dirt bikes, if you try it, you'll realize what Mike said is true. It's a natural high. You feel there's no cell phone, no one can tell you what to do. You control your destiny, your speed, and it's fun, and it takes your mind off your problems, and you feel better when you're done without alcohol or drugs.
you do.
And I've been sober since August 26, 1991. So some things happened earlier in my life with drinking, got in a little trouble, and quit. And I didn't have that crutch. I was thinking everybody's got a crutch. My crutch, if you want to call it that, is riding off road, and I've had nothing but positive come from that. Like everything good in my life revolves around
You
off road.
surround yourself with good people. That's another thing. There's the support you get and the sharing of your experiences. And probably some of your best experiences in your life was done with a dirt bike with family or friends.
Most all of them.
Yeah.
And it's good exercise too. We didn't talk about
gosh.
that. You burn calories out there too, you know.
Yeah.
You're not sitting behind a desk or something.
That's right. That's right. My best, I can't ride anymore because of my neck, the rods and all that. And used to, I'd just get on my dirt bike when I get mad with the employees or just something that's stressing me out. I'd go get on my dirt bike, like you say, and you go ride for an hour or two and come back and you feel rejuvenated. But nowadays, the only way I get that feeling is I go get on a Bobcat and I go build something on my trails, or I'll renovate something. So I get that same feeling of accomplishment when I get off that machine, I can look back and see what I've accomplished. And that's probably my biggest passion now, is seeing a piece of property or seeing a parked area on my property that's not benefiting no one at this time, but by the time I get through with it, I've come up with an idea in my head and created some form of recreation or entertainment for that particular spot. And then I get to go back and watch people enjoy that accomplishment.
Perfect example is your 350-acre park that you built out of the woods and put an RV resort in the middle of it with how many sites?
It's going to be 50 on the first one, but it have up to 300.
It's beautiful. I'm definitely coming back to stay there.
Yeah, you know, that was a tract of land, and I used to quail hunt on it, and when we got in there and started clearing it, I discovered that valley in there and that water, that draw, and I just thought, you know, I just looked out there and I said, this would be really nice for a pond, and it'd be the perfect place for RVs, because, you know, people are attracted to water.
Yep.
They're always attracted to water. But my plan on that down there is bicycling is becoming a large part of our culture as well, and it's across with off-roaders, and cycling goes hand in hand. I mean, a lot of people have both and do both. So my plan on that 350 acres is, I've actually, last week I had a couple of rough days. I just wanted to do something, so I went and got on a Bobcat with a mulching head, and I started making bicycle trails.
Those electric bicycles, we pedal them, but the electrical, I just got my first one. I thought I'd never have an electric bike, and I rode one, and I was like, now I know why.
Yeah.
I pulled back in, we have a gas dealership, and I took it for a ride and bought it back in. I said to my son, this one's sold, I'm taking this one.
Yeah.
They're fun.
My idea down there is going to be a dedicated area without the noise, the peace and the quietness along the rivers and all, is put bicycle trails.
Awesome.
That or golf cart trails.
Nice.
So I'm gonna have it as a non-motorized, let's say gasoline engine facility, because sometimes you just want to get away in that peace and quiet and not hear the motorcycles, you know. And most of us don't have a problem with it. I mean, because we're into it. But at the same time, sometimes that tranquility just gives you a different world out there.
Or if you got guests or mom and grandma there and they want to just relax and let the boys, or the other way around, whatever the case may be, if somebody wants to be in a quiet spot, that's like, it is an RV resort. It's
Over the
it's
hill
a,
and you don't
you feel like
hear
you're in a park.
Exactly.
3 ponds, big pine trees everywhere, rolling hills. It's beautiful. And that's just 350 of the, how many acres?
We had 6,000 on the of the 30,000, we're using 6,000 for recreation.
And the sites are all big, for a big rig friendly. You could haul as big a rig as you want in there.
Everybody always asks me, are you gonna build more trails, more trails? Yeah, I could do that. I mean, there's plenty of them out here, but the problem is the maintenance. Is when you build something that large, maintenance becomes the issue. And then you lose your quality. Well, in my world, quality is better than quantity. Because when you get that large quantity, you can't sustain your trail system.
With 150 plus miles of trails and 16 tracks, if anybody needs any more than that, they're kidding themselves. I don't think you can do one lap around all of them and take you 2 whole days.
You're right. You would think so, but at the same time, if you can't get around and maintain those trails to our level, and you know, we pride ourselves in being told many times by many people that we have the best maintained trails that they've ever been to, and so to keep it at that level, we're going to have to, you know, we just don't need any more. I mean, anybody that's been in the track business knows how much it takes to do one track. We'll try to maintain about 18 of them.
To the level that you guys do, plus
And
all the trails.
then you got about 150 miles of trails that you're trying to maintain. And you're trying to keep it as mud-free as possible. Now, if we wanted to go the mud route, you don't do any maintenance. You just let people go in and just let them tear it up. And, you know, that's a different world, and it's not a bad world. I mean, there's people that do that, but that's just not who I am.
But you have that off the trail for people, like you said, you have these spectator areas where, because the trails are friendly for all ages and vehicles, you've got the mud, but it doesn't, you don't have to go through it. There's a trail that grandma or grandson can ride through, you know?
That's the most important thing here is everybody has to have the same opportunity to go down the trail. That's so important to us. And to me, that's what keeps people coming back.
But if you're a pro rider like Cooper Webb, you know, the way you built the trails with the rolling hills in them. As we were driving through, I was thinking a pro rider would double this. I mean, you could, if you're a GNCC rider and you're training and you want to go out and have a blast, you could ride all day out there and not hit the same trail twice. Take you 2 days to hit them all. So it's built for everybody to enjoy it. But there's the challenges. There's the Mark Barnett Pro track you have out there, the Grand Prix track, you know, the drag race track. There's something for everybody, really.
Yeah. You know, due to my health and everything, I've somewhat have stepped back from the operations to the point that I've turned. My brother is pretty much continuing on with it. You know, we were all born and raised here, and with the kidney transplants and the broken necks and so forth, I'm basically am here to enjoy what has been achieved. I'm not as involved. Now, for me to go out there and get on a Bobcat and do that, that's just gives me that's one of the few things I can still do and have my happiness. Other than sitting around here and enjoy meeting people like yourself. I mean, you know, we just met 48 hours, 36 hours ago,
Yep.
and yeah, I feel like we'll have a friendship from now on. We'll always know who each other are and welcome each other back at any given time. I've just, there's nothing that I could have ever done, I think, that could have introduced me to as many people as I've met in my lifetime here. Sitting right here in front of this fireplace, and families, kids, you know, learning the hardships in their lives, the good in their lives. We all share our experiences. I've met more people with kidney problems since I've been here, and people knew I had kidney problems. And anything I can do to help them through support, you know, moral support and advice. Actually, the lady that's working in our kitchen there, she's on dialysis right now. She's hoping to get on the transplant list. There was a guy here this weekend. I did not realize this, but I had met him in a dialysis center for a few minutes and talked to him. And, you know, I meet so many people. And he walked up to me and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but, you know, I met you in a dialysis center. And I got a kidney transplant." He said, "You walked in, you stopped back in after you got a transplant, and you gave me hope, because I saw you gleaming with life, and that just made me tough it on out until I was able to get one." Because well, I tell you, when you get down in life, sometimes you think getting out of it is easier than going through the tribulations. And
Sure.
the Lord's been a big part of it. I mean, I prayed a lot to Him about, you know, advice and how to handle situations, and He's always, there's no doubt that the Lord has brought me through all the things I've done. And like I said, I've been dead 3 times, and they brought me back. We built a big room in the back where we used to have church every Sunday morning. Currently at this time we don't have anybody doing it, but you know, one day I'm sure we'll be bringing that back. We were going to actually build a church here at one time. That was my plan, right there in front of the Wolf Den. I designed a chapel so that we could go there and have that special spot. Kind of unique thing, just we've had 4 weddings here. Matter of fact, we had one right here in front of this fireplace. Durhamtown has touched a lot of people in a lot of ways, so many ways, that I would predict there's probably over 50 people that have had their ashes spread on this property.
Wow. Not to mention 250 years. How many generations of your family? That's like 8, 10 generations or something like that? 20. No, it's a long time.
But
So, in a lot of your ancestors were actually, they didn't have hospitals back then. They were born right here on this property.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And you have a cemetery here too, don't you?
yeah,
This is where your final resting place is right here, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You'll be spending
I
your.
got 2 dogs already buried up there. I'm gonna be scattered out there with them, I guess.
You'll be here, although you're sort of retired and turn the reins over to your
Brother.
successor. Your heart's still here. Your
Oh, yeah.
passion is still here. You're still here.
I'm here 7 days a week. I mean, this is.
You could go wherever you wanted to go, do whatever you wanted to do. Your heart is here. That's why you're still here. And apparently 50 other people had their ashes spread here. Felt the same way, huh?
Yeah, I mean, people come in and ask me all the time, and say, hey, do you have a problem with that? This is one of my husband's favorite places, or my son's favorite place, or this is a happy spot. This is where they want. They said when they die, they'd like to be scattered over there.
Wow.
We still have families that come every year on the anniversaries of their death, and they come out here. Their ashes are buried here, and they come out. We shut down that area and give them an hour to have their family time out there. Every year, we do that with several families now still.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely the type of facility that the camera can't really capture. Us talking it can touch points on it, but you have to go out and feel what it's like to be in the middle of what I would describe as a very nice national park, like one of the nicest I've ever been in, that has been designed to cater towards off-road fun of all types. There's really, we talked about that yesterday. I don't know of another facility anywhere in the world like this, and if you haven't been here, you need to come check it out. And I was even thinking maybe someday I'll have my bike shop, like take 5 or 10 of my key guys and do a corporate retreat here. Fly down to Atlanta,
Yep.
come here, or bring the big rig down and spend a weekend here. Have a bonfire and get back to basics. A lot of bonding and camaraderie is developed from days on the trails and riding. And
One of the things that we've done with some of the dealerships within 100 miles of here, or 200 miles of here, is they'll do a customer appreciation ride. They'll invite customers that have bought units from them, and they'll agree to pay for their ride pass for 2 days or whatever, and have a meal. We cook a meal for them. We'll have one catered in for them. We've done a lot of customer appreciation rides out here. Western Power Sports, they do a dealer appreciation ride where every year they pay for it, and they invite dealers from all over the southeast United States. Well, actually from New York and everywhere come down here for that weekend and spend the weekend, and they give away a bunch of their promo stuff, and they pay for their ride and pay for their meals and so forth, and that's always been a really popular thing.
And like a ski resort, they can come here with nothing, not even a jacket, and get everything. They can rent all the riding gear or buy it if they choose to. They can rent the motorcycle. They can go to the Ritz-Carlton if they want to be in a fancy pants place 30 minutes away, or they can stay in the cottages you have here.
Yeah.
So it's and you're how far from the airport, Atlanta?
Atlanta Airport, hour and a half.
So you can take an Uber over. There's really no excuse not to come check it out. And if this place isn't on your bucket list, guys, I highly recommend you put it on the top of it. It's been on a lot of people, 50 people's bucket lists, who decided they'd stay here forever. And how many of your ancestors? And it's just I was thinking, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's like if you think of great American places and great American stories, this place, 250 almost years since, and back to the original. When you start by saying your great grandfather fought side by side with Washington in the Revolutionary War, I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, where else can you go to a place like that? There is no other place. There is no other place in the world, and certainly in the United States, that has that kind of history and commitment and diversity in the things that you've done to keep it going. From being originally a plantation, and then a hunting farm, and then ultimately an ATV resort, and now this high-end, beautiful park-like RV resort you build on the property by the entryway. It's just incredible. Now, you can't do this alone. You've got 35 to 70 people, depending on how busy you are working here. I know there's some openings here. This might be a good time to do a shout out if you've watched this far and you want to check it out. I think you have an opening in the kitchen, right? You're looking for a new chef?
Yeah, we have some openings. We're picking back up after COVID, and COVID we exploded, but we're expanding in a few areas right now. So if anybody interested and want to come work here, we can provide a place for you to live.
What positions are you looking to fill right now? If you had to do a obviously the kitchen, you want more help in the kitchen.
The kitchen, the pro shop, here on the front counter, greeting people that come in, taking reservations, mechanicking as far as keeping the equipment maintained that sustains the property, maintenance on all the cabins. I mean, we could use help in every department right now.
And one of the issues we have here in Georgia is there's only like, in this general area, not a lot of people live around here, right?
We're so far out. That's the problem, is you don't have a large basis of employment. I mean, to choose from. Tallahassee County, which we're right on the Greene and Tolowa County lines. And Tolowa County is the least populated county east of the Mississippi River, with only 1,600 people in the entire county. So, people that come here are people that want to get away from the hustle of society, I guess you could call it.
And the reason I mentioned that is if you guys are thinking of getting involved here, you don't have to be local. They could come here with an RV, live in their RV and work here.
RV.
They could rent a cottage or something. I'm sure it's difficult to fill these positions, and one of the things Eric said is you want people who are obsessed with the off-road ATV lifestyle that really love this, and it's not really a job if you love what you're doing, right? And you're surrounded by the things that mean the most to you.
I don't know if you noticed that kid coming in on the crutches. He was racing down at Daytona.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, broke.
I was there.
He crashed, and
I was filming the races.
a guy ran over his leg. But they left there and came here. They're from Colorado.
He's bummed that he can't ride. He can't wait to get that thing off, I guarantee you.
They came from Colorado.
Wow.
Right.
He wasn't about to miss it either, was he? That adrenaline rush is impossible to replace. And I've seen a lot of old, especially the pro riders, when they retire, if they don't ride, sometimes they try alcohol and drugs or gambling or other negative things to try to replace that healthy adrenaline rush. And there's nothing like it. If you're down and out, you've got problems, and you want to have a positive focus. Nothing better than getting on your ATV side by side or your motorcycle and getting out in nature here, and away from the stresses of life. Hey, babe. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good.
Good morning. You enjoy your ride yesterday?
My better half came here to say hello.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
We're having a great time here.
Yeah.
We have had a nice fireside chat here. So,
Oh, yeah? It's
yeah.
nice and toasty in here.
Yeah, it is.
All he would do is just be out here on the farm. And I was thinking, how can somebody want to be that secluded? How do you want to just stay in the woods for 2 weeks? On the farm for 2 weeks and not go to town?
Yeah.
I'm talking about a small town. Union Point of Greensboro. The only time they would go is on Saturday night to the dance. Him and Mama.
Yeah.
That's the only time they'd leave here.
Yeah.
So, being 20-year-old, I just want to be in the next nightclub, the next bar, the next party.
Yeah.
You live for that.
All right.
And so, after my dad crashed on his bike, and then he died, and I was living in Conyers. I lived there 10 years. My son was born, and I was up there, and that's when drugs and all that was getting so bad, because I was hiring some of those kids to work for me up there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And finally, I said, I want to take my son back here, raise my son in a better life. I realized that this was a better life. And then when I got back here, when my dad passed, I started understanding why he didn't want to go to town. And that's like me right now. I'll go 2 weeks.
Not going to town.
I don't care about going to town. Only thing, I go to Dollar General over here and get me a couple loaves of bread.
Yeah.
Make me sandwiches or whatever. I mean, I live so simple life that if I want to be around people, I just come down here
There you go.
and sit.
Yeah.
And I have a positive experience, you know, just like you guys. And it's just made me appreciate this side of life a lot more. And then all you gotta do is turn TV on, you realize why you don't want to go to Atlanta, Georgia no more.
Just watch the news and you realize why you don't want to leave this place at all.
Yeah, it's
Ever.
like every morning, well, is that a one-night murder, a two-murder night, or a four-murder night? How many murders
Exactly.
happened in Atlanta last night? Over the nothing gas stations, stuff like that. So now I'd have no desire to go to Atlanta.
I don't blame you.
To go anywhere really. I just content to get up, come down here and go get on a bobcat or take me and my dog, we'll go out and go ride around and check on Lindo and them working on the tracks.
Mhm.
You know, those guys, they do such a great job, and watching them work is just, I feel some pride that I trained them.
Yeah.
You know, both of those boys, they've been with me since mid-90s.
Wow. It's almost 30
That's
years.
a long time.
Lindo,
Yeah.
the main one, he was a little kid, 15-year-old when he came here.
Wow.
And I've helped both of them purchase, they're from Guatemala, and I've helped both of them purchase the largest coffee plantations in their region.
Wow.
Wow.
So they are looked up to as very high respected people in their communities, and they live up in the mountains. They grow coffee, and you know, and I'd give them advance some money because I knew they weren't going to go, but they're going to still be here,
Yeah.
no matter what. And I've helped them, you know, provide a great life for their families in Guatemala.
That's awesome.
And you know, my bond with them is no different than maybe my brother or my son. I mean, that's who they are to me.
That's
They're as much of my family as my son is. And they just do the best job on everything they do. They built this whole place. That Lindo guy down there, Omar has not been as long, but Lindo, other than the construction of this building, other than the carpentry side of it, they have built every single thing in this project. They've built every track. And most of the tracks, Lindo and I would go down there and just walk through the woods. And both of us would say, hey, it'd be a pretty good jump. We took that dirt right there and put it over here. We could do this. We just, as I call it, take chicken shit and make chicken salad out of it. You know, you look at the land, you say, well, what's the features of this little piece of dirt right here?
Yeah.
And if there's a gully, man, this could be some hill climbs. This could be I did a thing called like a skateboard pike, half pike, I guess they call it. I built one of those.
We were in there yesterday. It's incredible.
And then I had this other crazy idea of a crazy eight. To do a drop in, but you would go in and it was in the figure of an eight.
Oh, that's cool.
But you could only go in one at a time because you didn't want you had the crisscross in it. You know, you see those things at the circuses and
Yeah.
all that. And I, sure enough, when Mark Barnett was here, I was telling him about it. I was gone had to leave and go somewhere for about 4 or 5 hours, and I come back. And I said, what the hell are you doing over here? He says, I'm building you a crazy eight. Sure enough, we built one. But it was almost impossible to maintain because of the rainwater and the rutting and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So we ran it for about 3 years and then I shut it down. And but yeah, Lindo, he's the one who built that resort. He's done all the utilities, all the water, graded all the lots, hauled all the dirt in. We built the lakes, me and him and my brother. But we've never built a lake in our life. We've never done anything
It's
like
beautiful.
it. And
It is. It's amazing.
It to me is like a painting. You take a piece of raw land and then you turn it into something.
Mike, you said from the beginning, one of the first things you said was that you designed this for families, particularly mom and the kids. If Christy did not like this place, I can promise you, I wouldn't come back here because we do everything together. We ride together, we travel together, and she also normally wouldn't be out on an ATV for 8 hours straight like we were yesterday. She's good for a couple hours. In the cold. She was out there. What was it like for you? What was it like seeing the resort that he just built for the
You know,
for
it was
for.
funny because I was so cold, my legs were so frozen.
It is winter here. Let's start with that too.
And I was like, but I stayed because I wanted to see more and more of it. And then we drove by the camper, and then I'm like, oh, I should jump out now. I didn't get warm. And then they were like, oh, let's go check out the new RV resort. And I'm like, oh, well, I gotta stay. I gotta see this.
Yeah,
And I'm
yesterday was the
so
first day of
glad.
spring too, you know.
I know.
The coldest first day of spring we've
Today
had
is
in
much better. It's
20
much
years.
warmer. So, but it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, I love how it tears down into 3 ponds and the pine forests and the peninsulas coming out of the ponds. They're beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yep, it's just, you know, I build it, I look at it, if I was a customer, what would I want to see?
Yeah,
How would I want, where would I want it to look like?
it's
And so,
beautiful.
we're gonna put a water fountain out in the middle
Oh,
of the
nice.
ponds, and then we got that, well, I'm gonna put a pump in there, circle water back down the waterfalls we built.
Mm-hmm.
And see, my guys, they built this chimney right here.
This is amazing.
When did this chimney get built?
It was being constructed when 9/11 happened.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
20 something. That's about 20 years ago, right?
Can't believe it's
One
been.
of my
Can't believe it's
workers-
been 20 years.
one
We're
of my
getting
workers
we're
built
getting old, Mike.
One of my workers built it. That's his first ever fireplace he ever built.
It's fantastic. Hey, what's that saying? Professionals built the Titanic. Amateurs built the Ark. There it is, right behind you, right there.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Labor of love. Someone. He did his best, and it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's amazing some of the talent I've seen. But those guys there, they just, I mean, sometimes Lindo will go out and I say, where are you working at? And I won't see him for 2 or 3 days. I'll be tied up doing something. He says, I'm working over here off Sally Road or something like that, you know, tell me where he's at. My confidence in him is so high that I know no matter what he's doing, it's gonna be done right. Finally, he'll say, he'll come in here and say, hey, come on, I wanna go show you something. An example, I don't know if y'all went around, we call it MX3 or Track 3.
Yep.
Trail 3, I think it is, we changed the name of it. You know, he just went down there one day and worked for about 3 or 4 days. He got through, he said, come here, I wanna show you something. Sure enough, he done built that whole track.
It's all about the families.
Yes.
Families of Durhamtown. Have fun, guys.
And, just, you know, the thing about the single tracks, you know, it's it, because
There's your case study right there. The dad, mom, and the 3 kids. And mom, if she doesn't have a good experience here, they're not coming back.
you may not choose to come here over Disney World or somewhere else if mom's not gonna be happy.
I've heard families, multiple families, say this is Disneyland for off-road.
Yeah.
We call it Disney on dirt.
Disney on dirt.
I don't like that. I
Yeah,
don't like
that's
how
perfect.
we sued. Disney World, but
Disney on
the
dirt.
guy from Disney World is the one that first made that statement. He said,
That's
"This is
funny.
Disney on dirt."
Well, everybody's saying it now.
Yeah, it's just amazing what you've done, and what is so cool is that, you know, Mike, when we were out with Nick, right?
Yes,
He-
Eric.
Eric, he said how there's like little destination stops along the way, where you'll just be in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden there's picnic tables and a truck, and you move on, and that was, I thought, was really cool.
That's the Disney concept that I had, that
Yeah.
you space people out, but as you travel, you come into I call it a feature. Whether it's a track, or whether it's a hill climb, or whether it's the overlook on the swamp, or crossing a creek or something. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
so it makes you. I guess the biggest disappointment is I'll meet people and say, yeah, we've been coming here for 4 years and we've never been across the road. They say, oh, we just go to the track and that's all we do. And I say, well, you hadn't seen Durhamtown.
Yeah.
And if the track's not perfect, then they'll say, well, you know, it's hard to keep everything in perfect condition, especially with weather. And, you know, it may not be perfect this week. It may be 2 weeks before we can get back around to, let's say, one of the woods courses. That's an
Right.
example.
Yeah.
The woods course, it's been probably 3 or 4 months since we've been there. and it had gotten in rough shape. In some cases, I like some of the trails in rough shape because it slows people down.
Yes.
Okay, and when people get here, they want to see the whole park as fast as they can. It's like going to Six Flags. You run to the fastest roller coaster.
Yeah.
You try to get there for everybody else, and you feel like I got to do them all. I don't want to miss none.
Exactly.
But in the meantime, you've missed all this in between.
Yes.
So it hurts me when I see people that haven't gone and experienced the whole park, because there's more than one track here.
Yeah.
There's more than a motocross.
It's impossible to see it in one day. It's totally,
No,
it takes
and-
2-3 days.
You know,
They say they done it. People tell me, "Oh man, I did the whole track in 4 hours. The whole park in 4 hours."
and it's
No
like,
way.
no.
Somebody posted the other day. Yeah, we were there. and We saw the whole
One half the
whole
street,
place in 4
maybe.
hours. But they run so fast, they don't see all the trails they blew by.
Exactly.
I tell you, who's worse about the most ones that are worse is the dirt bikers that ride the single track. They ride these courses, the open trails. And they say, "Well, we've done the whole park. You know, we didn't see any single track." And I say, "Well, first of all, there's a map right there, and it's got them all labeled on it." "Oh, I didn't see that one. Oh, I didn't see that one. Was it because you was running 50 miles an hour when you went by it and you didn't notice that trail entry on your right there?"
Yeah,
They're all
that's
clearly
probably
labeled.
it.
So
And
then
the
they got to go
map.
back and do it all over again. So they got to tell them you got to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to find all these locations, because it's not just like go to one spot and it's all single track. My single track is pockets. There's a blend between the hunting, the wildlife, and the riding. I intentionally leave large pockets of land undisturbed, because the wildlife would use those as a refuge area.
Yes.
Okay, so the deer and the turkey and all that, you know, they'll settle down and they'll stay in this 100 acres or 150 acres or so right here while the riding's going on. But as soon as that riding stops, it's like you turn a light switch on. They just start coming out of the woodwork. There won't be nothing to see 100 deer out here in these fields. On the track, you go out every morning, the tracks are covered in deer tracks,
That's awesome.
motocross tracks. And we've had people hit deer. I've probably 10 of them over the years. I've had people back on that MX4 you're talking about go over a jump and a deer run right under him while he's in the air. You know, there's so much wildlife out there. And I remember we was having a half scramble here one time, and we had one spot where the trails kind of came close to each other, where he had to go out and go into an area and then he came back. So this older guy, he sat there in a chair between the two trails. They were probably as wide as this room, a little wider apart. But he was sitting there in the middle. He said, looked up, and here comes this dirt bike up over the hill with no rider. This dirt bike, the bike itself comes over the hill with no rider on it. It's just coming through the woods. He's like, what's going on here? And the bike comes on up and falls over and lays over, and then a few seconds later, here comes this guy crumbled up, crawling up over the hill.
Oh, no.
And the old guy says, what the heck's going on with you? He says, man, this deer just come across and I plowed that deer. He knocked me slap off the bike. He jumped up just as I went into him and peeled him off the bike. He said, my bike come up through here? He said, yes, laying right over there. And the old guy, he went over there and grabbed it. He said, well, did you kill the deer? He said, yeah, the deer's laying right back here. The old man went down there and grabbed the deer, drug it up inside his chair, kept the deer.
That's dinner.
And brought the deer back out with him at the end of the day and took it home with him and cleaned it.
Yes.
And then you might know this old guy. His name was Don from New York. He used to go to all the half scrambles, pull in a trailer. He had a street bike, pulled a little trailer with his dirt bike on it behind it. He used to work for the Forest Service up in New York, upstate New York. And but anyway, he took that deer home, and he showed it back. Come back the next year, and he brought me some flies that he had made for fly fishing, because we talked about fly fishing. I like to fly fish, and he had made me some flies out of the deer hair, the hair on that deer that he had gotten. That guy had run over there. But I had that older gentleman. He was in his 80s when he done all that. I think 75. He laid out 100-mile enduro course here back in '99 when we had the Cedar. I told you they come down here and did. That was my first experience with motorcycles. Cedar come down here and did a half scramble, and then they did an enduro. And for them to be able to have one track of land that they could put a 100-mile trail on was so unique for them. And he taught me how to make trails. That's the biggest thing I gained from him. Is you don't make a trail straight up side of a hill. It's a rut. How you run parallel, kind of like the farmers did when they laid in the crops. They would tier them out on terraces. And he taught me how to make, and that's one of the ways we learned how to keep our trails last longer than they did.
Eric, you talked about how some people come here and they say, yeah, I did all the trails in 4 hours. Which we know is they're clueless. There's so much that it would take you days. 150 miles of trails, 16 tracks. I talked to Eric, who is not only a professional landscaper and runs helps you maintain track, but he's a professional rider that you hired to test and ride all of the tracks to help improve them from a rider's standpoint. And what he told me yesterday, he said he had felt. I said, Eric, how long does it take you to experience all of Durhamtown? He goes, I've been here 4 years. My knobbies haven't been over every inch of dirt here. It goes, it's in every day. He said he become a better rider every day. He's 50 years old. He started riding at 31. He rides every day, at least 10 hours a week, sometimes much more. On his day off, he'll go out and ride 6 hours. But this place is not a place you're going to get bored of. There's specifically designed tracks like the rhythm track that are designed to improve your riding skills on jumps without the risks of corners. So it's just an incredible facility. It's to hear someone who's been here 4 years to tell the truth. I have my knobbies haven't hit every trail here. That's the truth.
And he probably doesn't know where they all are either.
No.
Because see, Lindo and I back in the first 10 years. We laid out so many single track trails because we didn't have all these tracks back then in the beginning. It was mainly ATV trails, dirt bike trails. There wasn't no side by sides either. And I think we had maybe 2 motocross tracks back then. And there's trails that me and Lindo and I be in the woods sometimes, and we'll run up on a trail that we had built 15 years ago, and we haven't ridden that trail in 10 to 15 years. We just forgot about it. People say, well, what do you do for trail maintenance? And I've had people all over the United States come in wanting advice on how to maintain trails and this and that. And I said, trail maintenance is trail rotation. And the Forest Service, 8 miles from here, there's some trails on the Forest Service land. It's called Town Creek. Well, the Forest Service will only allow them to have about a 6-foot wide section through those woods. And they've been there for 35, 40 years. And they will not allow them to get off of that section. So their trail maintenance is only inside of that 6-foot spot. So they have repair days. Well, they go over there with a pick or a shovel and they throw dirt into the ruts. Well, it took thousands of years to compact that dirt enough to hold up to the tread of those tires and the throttle. If they think throwing a little bit of dirt in there is going to fix that, it ain't going to do it. And so I remember one of the scariest days of my life on this property. Sitting here and I got a phone call. And it said U.S. government. United States government or something like that on the phone thing. I'm like, oh shit, who is this? And this guy is on the phone. He says, my name's so and so, and I'm in Washington D.C. with the Department of Interior, I think it was, and I'd like to come out and look at your facility. We're talking about federal government. What in the world is the government want to come here for? Federal government from Washington, D.C. He said, I want to come look at your trail system. And I'm paranoid. So I'm trying to figure out how to lay him. I said, well, I'm kind of tied up. You know, it'd be by maybe a couple of weeks we can get together. He says, no. He said, I don't think you understand. I'm at the Atlanta airport. And
An hour away.
I'm going to be there an hour and a half. And I am definitely going in freak mode.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay. I said, well, what's the purpose of your trip? He says, well, you know, I've worked with the trail systems on National Parks land, and I want to meet with you and look at your trails. And I'm thinking erosion, you know, and wetlands.
Yep.
Well, I'm thinking, I got to figure how I'm going to play this. I knew there was some Forest Service land up here that I just mentioned, Town Creek. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll meet you at McDonald's in Greensboro, and I'll take you out and show you the trails. So I knew he probably didn't know about those trails that the federal government has right up here. So I said, well, I'm going to take you. I took him to the government trails. And I came in the back way, so he didn't know he was on government land, because I knew the land. My cousin owns land next to it. So we're walking around the trail system. And we walk about 1.5 miles of trails, and we're talking about erosion and how the maintenance of the trails, and you know how it's, you know, destructive, and the beer cans were everywhere. I mean, government land, you can imagine, ATVs and dirt bikes back then. It was just trail markers are beer cans. And he was talking about how bad it was and all that. And the more I talked to him, the more I got comfortable with him. Why, when I first opened up, and I mentioned earlier about the oversized tires, when I first started, they first started those big tires, they started, that's when I started seeing massive destruction on my property. So I banned aftermarket tires for coming to Durhamtown. And they had heard about that. And they were looking at maybe banning aftermarket tires on all federal lands. And they wanted to see the impact that they had done at Durhamtown and what the possible, how it created solutions. And after I figured out what his motive was, I said, well, what you don't realize is you're riding on your government land. You're walking your government land right now. I says, I live about 6 miles from here. That's where my farm is. So we came down here, and I took him and I showed him. And I showed him bad situations. And I said, you see right here where this trail was a year ago, we're right up here above it, 8 feet over. I said, the solution is you don't take a trail to the point of non-return. You take that trail and you relocate. I says a dirt biker and these guys, they only need 4 feet, 4 to 5 feet max. And if you keep moving it, and then you can cycle back and come back around, I said you can maintain this property. So he learned a lot about trail maintenance, and he was going to take that practice back to the federal government for a recommendation on how to maintain their trails. And now on this particular farm, federal government land, they allow them to start moving about 6 to 8 feet every year
There you
to
go.
rotate them. And but that was the scariest I've ever been when that guy told me he's from the federal government. He was 1.5 hours away sitting at the airport.
And you're like, oh,
Oh
no.
boy, I'll never forget that day.
Mike,
But he was impressed by what we had done.
Well, yeah, because I couldn't believe the condition of the trails when I went out there. They were amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, they're absolutely beautiful.
Well, see, there was another one up in the North Georgia mountains, and they had only allowed them to stay in that area, and it was hilly land, much more hillier than we are. And what the government's deal was, they had these special bulldozers designed that are like 5 feet wide and they're about 15 foot long to do trails with, and so they won't slide off the mountain stuff. But all they do is cut deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And some of that trails, you're riding in an 8-foot trench.
Yeah.
wow.
Okay, and when you're riding down and the trail walls is higher than this mantelpiece is right here, you just created a place for all the water to come to.
Exactly.
So you've created destruction. You're not trying to get a resolve it. And I, kind of explained that to him and told him, but we got away from the tire deal because that was just a way that it created so much bad publicity nationwide. It was all in all the magazines and everything about Durhamtown banning tires, and I mean, it was a major setback for us. And there's people even today that still say, I never came to Durhamtown because I'd heard you can't ride aftermarket tires there. I still hear people show up and say that.
Mike, we should show the people, I want to show them the board you have with the people from China and Europe and
Oh, yeah.
everywhere, all over the place,
Yeah,
and the
that's
pro
great.
shop and your rental fleet before we run out of time. So guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more adventures, off-road adventures at Durhamtown. Thanks for watching, and God bless United States of America.